Okay, so nice to be here and to see many friends in the auditorium. I hope that there are also viewers online. Um, so can we start my presentation? Is it possible? Oh, yes, great. So basically, I was asked to deliver the presentation on current challenges and projects in spatial development. It seems to be very serious in terms of a title. In fact, it's everything that I do, and I work as a chief architect of the city for 5 years now. There is also one of my predecessors here, Mr. Andrei Pavliev, who did a lot on his position. And there was another colleague, Julian Chaplinsky, and since 5 years, I'm guiding this development in this topic in the city. So basically, many things that happen are spontaneous. Maybe things that happen are unforeseen, unfortunately. But there is also kind of a positive vector, I think, through the longer period of time, maybe 10, 15 years. And I will try to make the speech with including different topics, including some kind of urban mobility, but also public spaces, but also, of course, taking into account the most important challenges of today. The war, the wounded, the families, IDPs, many things that we are very much concerned right now. So, let me start with this beautiful picture. I guess everybody saw it. And this is the city of Lviv, which is included in the UNESCO list under preservation. And of course, it's also a major point for tourism in the country. So for people to come and see Europe in Lviv from other cities. It's also very important that this kind of life and even attractivity is preserved during the wartime. So for people from other cities and localities, just to shift a bit, to have a rest from their environments which are less safe than in Lviv, and also to have this culture and to visit museums, visit different institutions and so on. I guess there are some people watching through the window. So we cannot those exclude the strikes and attacks on the city, because there is indeed no safe place in Ukraine, in the whole country. And basically 40,000 of Lviv citizens, including men and women, are currently in the front line. So this is our reality. Every family, everybody has something, some friend or some relative who is on the front line and is worried about their life, of course, and also know people who already died protecting our land. There are these strikes, and the most important, let's say, the most damages and the most dangerous strike was on 4th of September this year. And unfortunately, 8 people were killed during the strike. It was a very dramatic story. There are many stories, and basically it's impossible to describe in words. And of course, we also had this strike 2023. The parts of the rockets damaged the housing under preservation. So it took us a year now to be on the facade level. So this is already in the winter this year. But now we are working on the facade. So the buildings are renovated due to all prescriptions for the monuments with the materials that are appropriate and so on. So in general, we will renew all the damaged buildings, of course, and very quickly, but nobody can return the people's lives. It's also very positive that during the wartime, there is not only investment into renovating the damaged buildings, but also to renew our heritage from different periods. And this is one of the important investments. The big friend of city of Lviv, Harold Binda, invested into the renovation of this factory. It's called Gem Factory Art Center in Podzamcze, to have this very beautiful cultural institution that is there. And we are happy about this kind of events and exhibitions that take place there, discussions. So it became really important piece of the puzzle for the cultural image of the city. It's another example, tram depot and first electrical substation built, if I'm not mistaken, by the Kamil Brodsky, the architect in the start of 20th century, and then now renovated for needs of the cluster of different economies. So there will be co-workings, there will be event spaces, different kind of activities. So we hope that and you know, it's happening right now. So while there are sometimes these rockets falling on our hands, at the same time, people invest and they renovate and they put like brick by brick, piece by piece to really take care about the heritage. Basically, this process started very much in these years, and this was the project by GIZ, the integrated development of the city of Lviv. And there were different workshops and different programs started to educate the renovators, the restorators, the people who can renovate doors, windows, different kind of wooden elements. And basically the program on co-financing by inhabitants also started. And this is also a time when there was there were first discussions on how we should, let's say, renovate the whole inner city in general, about introduction of public spaces, about changes in mobility, bike infrastructure, other things. And basically, Iris Gleichmann was guiding this project. I just met her a few days ago, and we are all really thankful for these processes that she started in the city. So basically, there was a first program with the finance from Germany, combined with city budget, but also with the, let's say, support from inhabitants themselves. And later, when the German project was over, municipal project started, and we renovated more doors and windows than with support from Germany, which is also very important. And this project resumes now, even during the wartime, also on a bit less intensity, because we dedicate many money to the needs of the war. What is important, that there was also integrated the development concept for the city center, for the whole, let's say, old part of the city, mainly kind of inside the former walls. And it was a plan. There was a set of priorities that should be, sorry, somehow it, oh, okay. Some sort of priorities. One of them was, of course, this working with the question of city as the city of different religions and nationalities and you know, communities of Jewish, Armenish, Ruthenian, meaning Ukrainian, and also German and Polish, and you know, having this multi-cultural image of the city, historical city, represented in today. So one of the first projects was, of course, this synagogue square, and marking the places which were important and also dramatic for the Jewish history of Lviv. Basically, many things at that time changed. So we have this Rynok Square, main place of the city, main square of the city, looking like that. And this was, of course, you know, some place for the car of the mayor, some vice mayor, and so on. It was like this in the 90s. Somewhere there, even the place for the chief architects, maybe. But now I came here with a bike. When it's possible, I always use the bike, and I also have a car. I use it, but I have no possibility to park it maybe closer than 500 meters to to the workplace. So it's also becomes expensive with every time, and it's good that it's like that, because it's indeed like shift into our logics how to use the mobility in the city. So basically, the freeing the space from the cars and allowing the people to use it. It became a big impact for renovation and for also developing all this tourist attractiveness and tourist infrastructure. Also, like trams produced in Lviv and the new tram line, even the unimaginable before, it became a reality. So the big settlement, let's say neighborhood in the city, became connected with the city center with the tram line. Many things on public spaces, bikes, and also important players. This is, let's say, activists. Alexander Shutyuk, for instance, on this photo. Many activists, they became, they got a voice to speak with the city council and to implement the first steps, the projects on rethinking public spaces, also of conquering these public spaces from the possible invasion from kind of kiosks and so on. So this notion of public space became very important in the city. And it's all with participation, with many discussions, many workshops, and so on. Also the street, Bandera Street, its renovation, Stefan Gabi was working there at the time, and it became very important step on rethinking streets, not as roads, but as spaces between the facades, so that there is a space for everything and everybody, and we should weighten the importance of different users and also make it accessible for everybody. So many things like that, and also to work with the space and with some dominant objects, buildings, places, and so on. And other spaces. I will not show everything, but that gave us kind of idea to look at the city in general, to develop the integrated development concept. And I'm slowly coming to the topic actually of the forum, the spatial planning. And basically, we thought, what if we do this integrated development concept for the city of Lviv? At that time, the chief architect, Julian Chaplinsky, let's say, invited me also to, I proposed him to, that there is this integrated concept in Vienna, let's do it in Lviv. And he said, yeah, let's do it. So I have a lot of things to do. So please, if you have such incredible idea, just visit all these meetings with different departments and let's do it somehow together. So for me, it became very much clear how not enough communication there is between different institutions in the city hall and departments, and the lack of that is just incredible. And basically, this project became like a platform for this interaction. This is a master plan of the city of Lviv 2010. And basically, it's based on the idea to build in the fields, to build on the hills, to build here in the western part. So to develop many things outside. It's also hardly to read, actually. Also, it's planned to all these, instructions, how to color things, what fonts do you need to use. But at the same time, it's planned that it's maybe understandable for the people who can read, I don't know, 50 shades of violet color or something, because it's impossible for the blank eye to differentiate between these different shades of every color. So I believe that also in terms of graphics, there was important to shift to somewhere else. And also every of these master plans, they are also supported by different schemes for instance, on mobility. So we see that the idea to extend the city, to build it outside, on the outskirts and so on, it was the idea also to build many roads and ring roads and tangentes and many things that would have influence and would really impact the city as a car-oriented city, I would say. There is a detail that all these plans, they needed a lot of investment to build like 1,000 kilometers of tunnels and of ring roads, like highways. It will cost the money that maybe the city of Zurich doesn't have. So we were lucky. There was no money to really build all these ideas. And then we were and then I have to also mention, as I started to mention, like official layers of documents and formal planning documents in the country. So there is this master plan, and there is also this kind of a zoning plan. And zoning plan is addition to master plan, so it is meant to be like basically more detailized version of this zoning, of this master plan. So when there is a master plan housing area, here it is housing area up to 6 floors, housing area up to 12 floors, housing area up to 4 floors, so different kind of gradations. And these plans, they were also developed 2014, 15, 16 through these years and became like a part of the master plan. And then there are these the detailed plans in Germany, Bebauungspläne, yes, and this is kind of a document that served us to maybe improve some kind of places, because when there was a brownfield to change like master plan, it would take another 20 years with all the procedures and so on. It would be almost impossible to do it. And here it was possible to rethink like bigger areas and to do a master plan with a new approach, so to say, to create a boulevard, to create some courtyards and some school, to place some infrastructure that is absent in this kind of a district. And basically we came to also changing zones in this zoning and in master plans with these detailed plans. It's actually something that is done all around the country, and this is procedure, how it's done. Yes, it could be criticized, could be bad or good. I think it's like a reality. We try to, let's say, to avoid threats that this process can bring. So in general, as we develop this kind of B plans, we look a bit wider on the general picture to analyze the situation in almost all of the city, so that these changes or improvements are indeed improvements and not let's say, to make things worse. But starting with this integrated development concept for the whole city, we thought, okay, let's think a bit from the scratch. Let's invite inhabitants. There were many meetings, presentations in different parts of the city, communities, districts, and also here in the courtyard of the city hall, so that we printed, we drew, we really were open to see the things, but we also spoke to the people and explained what is important in, let's say, today's world, with the prescriptions of UN Habitat, of different kind of European institution, of Leipzig Charta for integrated development. What are the basics for spatial development? And basically on that and all of these meetings and discussion, we came to a very simple thing, that it's important for the future to stay a compact city, not to build on the outskirts or to build minimum on the outskirts. So think about the renovation and improvement and intensification of the inner resources of the settlement of the city. And basically we had still a lot of brownfields and so on. And this city of radius 6-7 kilometers, it becomes a car-oriented city. But the city with a radius of 4 or 5, it's you know, tram city, it's pedestrian city, it's a bicycle city. So it's important really for the city to stay compact. It's also interesting to compare the city of Lviv and the city of Vienna, for instance, but we can compare also with others in Europe. So basically, city of Vienna is more than double as big. It's also in terms of population. So the square area is 414, Lviv almost 200, like 182. The population 1.7 million, here 723,000 inhabitants. And if we calculate like density of population, it's almost the same. So it gives us like plus minus 4,000 inhabitants per square kilometer. But if we calculate the buildings, so in Vienna, per capita, there is now more than 40 square meters per capita. But in Lviv, at that time, there was 20. So in Vienna now, it's 45. In Lviv, it's 23. So to imagine, so to have the same kind of quality of area dedicated, let's say the square meters, dedicated to live there, just to live, not to work. We don't speak about offices. We don't speak about like that Vienna also includes Danube River, mountains, parliament, and so on. Just living space, we have to build another 15 million square meters inside the existing borders of the city. Just for the cities to be compared in terms of its infrastructure, in terms of buildings, right? So it was important comparison for us, and it gave us like idea, okay, there are still resources in the city. We indeed can be densified, and basically also we made the comparison. This is my colleague Marina Polishak, who at the time did incredible job. She calculated like every square meter in the city. There was huge tables and calculations, and we could compare the density in very small clusters. And this is, for instance, comparison between Vienna and Lviv in terms of inhabitants. So you see the density of inhabitants is almost the same. Sometimes even more inhabitants on some clusters, some more density. But if we compare the density of buildings, of housing, it looks like that. So you see this density and you see this density at the same time. So these 3 generations of families living in one apartment, it's very visible on this kind of schemes and examples. So basically, idea that we took as a central in the integrated development concept was really not to extend the city to the outside, to let it be a compact city for the future, and also to question all these ring roads and car-oriented infrastructure and construction on the outskirts. In many cases, also the intensity of construction, because yes, we can have some development, but maybe 4 floors instead of 16, instead of really crucially changing the image of some neighborhood, some village, and so on. And also here, this is the basics for the city, which is very landscape city with a lot of green connections, with important forests, with unique landscape consisting of different, let's say, natural environments that collide in the city center almost. So basically, this should be a framework for developing the city. And also, of course, we have these resources, and we identify the crucial elements to develop the city, crucial spaces to change, to rethink. And basically, we also saw that in terms of mobility, there should be, let's say, priority for public transit in the districts around the city center, priority. But there should be a dominance of the public transit in a city center. It became also the major, let's say, idea for the sustainable urban mobility plan developed parallel to integrated development concept. And there is Pavlo Sirvatka, Alexandra Sladkova, who, by the way, worked on the sustainable urban mobility plan. So basically, you know, when we took all of this together, it became indeed an integrated development concept with the definition of centers, sub-centers, of course, this idea of 15-minute city, of having sub-centers, of densifying the axis. So there's not roads going into the city center, but the axis of the city, densified with urbanity, with this quality that could be found not only in city center, but also in kind of other places in the city. And also like short contact to the green zones and so on. So in general, it's more detailed, but you can also compare it to the master plan of 2010 and see, you know, that is even more understandable, that you on this scale can see even the Rynok Square and the City Hall and all the spaces, which is important because the spaces, they are basics of the city. And street is the most important public space, actually. And we have to think about it as a public space. So in this kind of image, we wanted to give this idea also drawn. Now we have new challenges in urban development for the next urban, for the concept for spatial development. And we became, since few years, not a city, but here is Lviv, down there, the city, but we became amalgamated community consisting out of 3 cities and 17 villages. So this is an important challenge because nobody in Ukraine did this kind of integrated development concept for the whole territory. We started the process. We are now in the middle of development for integrated concept. We made already a few meetings where we visited with a lot of ideas. We reached many people. So I know that also many people who sit here are involved in the process, and it was very, very important for us. But after that, informal process, when we finish the integrated development concept, we will also go to the formal one, which is new in our law, and it is called comprehensive plan. So complex plan, it's a name in Ukrainian language, but complex, it's like complicated, you know. So rather it should be comprehensive, I think, in terms of English language. We have many sketches on that, on this, with including many things, but it's very raw, you know, it's just where we started. Basically, what is important is that to know what will happen with the demographics, and this is crucial thing, because if we look at where we are now, 2024, it looks like, yeah, another 12% of inhabitants. Many IDPs came to the city. They still coming. So this is not our, let's say, research. It's the statistics of the oblast, of the region. But in general, there is another research, and you can see this kind of shift upwards, that it will basically end in soon, and then there will be a shift downwards. And this is very important because we have the birth rates, which are the lowest possible. We have many, many issues with migration outside the country. So this is, again, not our research, but the work of Professor Burkhard von Rabenau from Germany, who did with the colleagues from Ukraine this kind of a research. And basically, the idea is that we have to count with 3 possible scenarios, but every of these scenarios is like going down in terms of inhabitants. And this is very important for the economy, for the new days to come in the city, in the country. And of course, let's say the statistics, it's not the let's say the best point in our culture, and let's say this in our urban planning situation, because it's really hard to count with any statistics. For many things we do our own research. We also constantly have a dialogue with many people in the city hall, for instance, this education department, to study what is the actually the number of kids in the schools and how it changes from one year to another. We have it all online, and we analyze, and basically, for instance, for the kids in the school, we see that this kind of curve of the existing places and this kind of curve of existing pupils in the school, they met at some time, then after 2021, now it became quite overloaded, but it will soon be again back, and we will have much, let's say, much better situation. So many other aspects of developing this integrated development concept for the whole Hromada, for the whole amalgamated community take place. As I said, we are just here at the collision of Podilsk plateau and the Rostocha kind of region, and basically the continental divide. I don't know if it says you something. This is this kind of a line where the I don't know where she is. Maybe here. No. Here. Okay, this is this continental divide. So the water from here, it goes to the Black Sea. The water from here, it goes to the Baltics. So this is important. It's a unique city that is on that. That's why we have a lot of problems with water. At the same time, you know, we have to think about all of these matters while we develop this kind of integrated plans. Where to place the sewage, how to pump these things from, like, say, through this continental divide, and so on. So also connections, like this city of Lviv, it's constantly regarded, it was regarded 2010, 2008 as this concentric radial city. Very simple, like on the flat surface. I don't think it is like that. With every time, I'm more and more thinking about city personally as some kind of city in a valley, meandering, like with the valley emerges in the city and then goes back. And this is I don't know, many also cities in mountain regions, like many cities in Switzerland and so on, have more similarities than any very clear Renaissance cities in the flat Italy, where there is a very strict Renaissance model in that, and they have kind of this historical development, and then the new parts which are more onto this geometry, which is more artificial. In our case, it's very, very, very implemented into this. Into this natural relief and landscape. And we analyzed black and green, blue and green. We analyzed the existing, let's say, housing stock and possible developments. By the way, all the villages before joining to Lviv community, they dedicated any vacant land, they made it private and gave it to a private person. So all this land, very good for agriculture or placing in the industry, is now private. And if there will be a project on my table to sign the single family house, I have no right to say no. Also, I don't like it. I don't want this housing to emerge. I don't want, let's say, that this suburbia starts to grow intensely. But this is the reality, that these settlements, they joined the amalgamated community as it was. And also to change, if we want, okay, let's not have their single family. Let's have their, I don't know, agriculture. Let's do this with this detailed plan, or with zoning, or with master plan, with any kind of instruments. We are not allowed to do the law against the will of the owners of these land plots. This is the critical point. So it's huge things to think about, and I think it could be also solved with active role of the land ownership policy of the city, to acquire the land, to use it for the later developments and strategical needs. So this is another point to discuss, and we are discussing that. So in general, this kind of land use is a huge issue, I would say, in every community in Ukraine for the future developments. Technical infrastructure and so on. And also, like, from the start of the war, there was a discussion, let's bring to Lviv the European gauge of 1435. Let's have some sub-station with people coming to Brykhovichi, and then with the buses and marshutkas to the city center, you know, like that. which we thought maybe it's not a potential of our city. Maybe we have to dig a bit into that. And basically many meetings of mayor, of vice mayor, of many people, me included, with the officials in Brussels and so on, gave their effect, I should say. And in this study of Jaspers, Lviv is just a major point on this crossroads of 5 directions, which is important, connecting Constanta on the Black Sea, the Romania, with the Baltics and the Baltics in the north. So this is for development of railway. Of course, it has a lot of things to do to redevelop through the next decades the system in the city, to shift the yards, to combine both 1520 and 1435 gauges in the city. This is another thing. So this is just sketches, and also to eradicate many developments, many areas. So this is our daily work. And it's very important that we have very bright, let's say, guys in the city council. For instance, the Rostislav Belinskis, who is guiding the local institute, who is like railway freak, I can say. And he knows a lot about that. And really, this is the people which we can change many things on this strategical level, because they really can say, the local railways, no, let's make this overpass not like that, but like this. And they say, oh, yes, really, we didn't thought about it. Yeah, you as a local, you know it. Another important topic, a bit shifting, back to the roots of spatial organization. It's just very important for me. It's about spatial development, but it's also about architecture, about how we actually, to do the spatial development, we have to put like building to the building and build streets and, you know, make public spaces. So everything is done like step by step. Even if we look like for the 20 years as a history, how it was developed, then we see, if you look backwards, we see the major changes. But it's done on a daily basis. And for me as a chief architect, it was very important to introduce like this more traditional scheme for the blocks. For the blocks, returning back to the spaces of the city, because this, I also very like this quote that Christoph Wessling, who is sitting here, gave in his lecture by Colin Rowe, that there is a building who are space occupiers, and there are buildings which are space definers. So to build a city out of space definers, which really define the spaces, as I said, the most important spaces, the streets, the squares, the parks, but also these courtyards, the common spaces where the inhabitants of the city, of this block, are the owners of the space, are responsible for that space. We can compare it with the Sihiu, the settlement from the 80s, and we see that it's impossible to say where is the street. Is there a street, or it's already a courtyard? Is it the common space, or is it the public space? It's unclear. So we are for the developments that are clear in terms of the, let's say, putting all together and correct structure of the spaces in the city. So it was historically the city in Lviv. It was historically the courtyard in Lviv. And this is the new street in Lviv that is constructed recently. And this is the new courtyard in Lviv that is constructed recently. So this is nothing special for any German, Swiss, Austrian, French city, but it's very special for Ukraine, I should say, because let's say to have this kind of quality in spaces, this was done by ABMK architects. I should always name the architects. If I forget, it's a bit bad, because I think that there is not enough attention to who did the job. This is one of the first like that, Belayev brothers, who planned the Magnolia complex. It's also realized with this courtyard, with these other situations and the street life. This is AVR, the city of fields, let's say. And we also introduced the new housing standards at the start of the war. We discussed it before the start of this full-scale invasion, but we thought, no, we don't have to wait for tomorrow. So the development of the city goes forward. There is a construction. We have to really change standards and improve them. And basically, this is this spatial approach with having different kind of typologies, but still the definition of public and common, even in when there is a form of public villas, urban villas, with also having the standards for human scale. So development should be 6, 7, sometimes 8 floors, but not walls of 20 floors, which is okay with our law. So our law says you can build anything. If there is this insulation working and so on, you can build walls out of 20 floors, no problem. No criteria, no values for the human scale. So this, what we also try to introduce. And other things, how the spaces work, the security, the sustainability, many things in details. But in general, the rules are very simple. They were communicated to developers, they were communicated with the architects, developed with developers and architects, and I should say they work. So we now see 3 years, it had an impact on what we built and how we built. Redevelopment of brownfields, as I said, important topic. This is the main public space in front of the train station with the new tram stops, with the public spaces, fountains, and how it works. But if we look from the distance, we see that all this triangle is kind of a mess. It's full of different ownerships. The landowners, there are also state, city, but also private. And to do something with that, we decided to come with some image, with some possibilities. We developed them together with Vienna Technical University, and based on many ideas that we had, it was kind of an instrument of trying the instrument of test planning, so to say. We then came to some possible parameters with some images. They look like this, and we made even this fancy renderings, you know, to just place on the table, to have all the owners at the table and saying, you see, there is a potential for that, so let's talk together how to do it. And I think it will come a time after the war when we will indeed have a serious change on this place. So the right part is already existing. On the left part, there are these ugly kiosks. So we will have, I think, good curtain of the city development there. Okay, working with local communities is another important problem. In major cities in the city, we have big districts, but we split them into smaller communities and had a communication with many of them. Sometimes it's on defining the priorities into what is the most important for the people. Even during the wartime, we're doing very small intervention, very modest, but for different ages, different kind of social groups and so on. 15 minutes, 20, how much? Okay, I can end here.
3 more minutes and we go over the discussion.
I think it doesn't matter. So it's I will end on that topic. It's important that there is also this hospital infrastructure. So maybe I will come to there. Okay, I will try to finish it in 3 minutes. So I will just skip. This is problematic housing, kindergarten.
That's the most interesting
thing. The Hospitalhowskom, no, isn't it?
If you want.
Yeah, well, okay, maybe we can cut the next session by 10 minutes, can we? Okay, so please go on.
Yeah, okay. So, discussing many local communities, we always come with the sketches, with the ideas how to also communicate things. And with some of the areas, like this Podholosko, that was a change in terms of land use, in terms of detailed plans, in terms of many things through the decades, I could say, even today. And it came to the point where at the start of my work at the City Hall, it was almost blocked for any other direction. So that was the decision to really freeze the development of this district before any common plan with the inhabitants of the district would be developed. And it took us kind of 4 years now to develop this plan, so that every of the groups, local groups, are agreed, and they're okay. Now we see there will be a school, this developers will be responsible for this for that, and here we can give even the new permissions with, let's say, this kind of agreement on improvement on infrastructure. So the roots of that and why it happens not so good as it was maybe planned, they are wide. Maybe we can discuss it later. But I should say that also the price for the property here is maybe one of the highest in the city. So when people say it's a urban ghetto and so on, it's really questionable. Okay, and there are better things, there are worse things. I understand the inhabitants who are against many things, but it also was a housing for the lower price and very affordable housing, I should say, at the start of this development. So there were kindergartens even here built, and it's not full, by the way. It's planned for 300 kids, but only 200 are there. So, but in general, it's a big question, and I think that now we have this common plan on which everybody agrees, and there is a plan with the construction of the school. So developer responsible for the school is also constructing like the new housing. There were only like 3 permissions given since then for the new construction, including social infrastructure. This is of course made in informal way, and then in formal way, and then on changes on the land use, and combining the places and exchanging them to the other locations. So very serious work that half of the city council also was involved. Some cases I will shift it very fast. So these are in the city center, their development, Belayev brothers, their housing, and it's very important to rethink many blocks in the city. We make a lot of competitions. This new competition on housing. This is another very big piece, and when there is a brownfield, we start with the integrated development concept on that brownfield. We see the diagrams, the logics, the plan. We compare it with the existing good examples from Lviv developments from the 19th century, 20th century. We see that, okay, it correlates in terms of spaces, in terms of scales. And basically then with every new project and development, it should be like built piece by piece with a lot of also discussions, problems, and deviations, unfortunately. On the more distant locations, we try to really have smaller scale, smaller density, as I said, or not to develop the things which could be not developed. This is the housing that we have, different things, and with every project, it's a huge discussion, and there is a whole story behind. So we're sitting here in the Sheptytsky Center. This is a church that is visible there. There is a church. And behind, this is Sheptytsky Center where we are. And there is you know, almost in the city center, this kind of scientific institution. And at this scientific institution, the new housing was meant to be built, these 3 houses. So when I came to my work, I saw it on the table. And of course, it took like almost 2 years and a lot of discussion to come from here to here, and to have an educational building and to have much smaller commercial development with the housing and so on. It's built, maybe it's not perfect facades there, maybe it's not the you know, incredible architecture, but it's fine. And in terms of the scale, it's fine, and it's without any deviation from that idea. We even made a competition on facades and on landscaping and so on. And many, if you talk about office spaces, about this 15-minute city, to really incorporate like the work spaces into the living districts, it's very important that we have many new projects. Also, these are built, and this is in construction, this is also built. Sometimes it's bad form, you know, but a lot of square meters. I would say rather it could be more better in terms of architecture. No? But this is serious office spaces building combined with other facilities and so on. But this one is like more Max Dudla and I think great quality of architecture, and this is basically became a center for some bigger area in the city. AVR developments, different offices. Maybe a few minutes for nowadays challenges. I think it's still 15 minutes. So this is a train station in Lviv, and maybe 5 million people passed through this train station during the wartime. And of course, we built a lot of this temporary housing, also very much included into the living quarters, not somewhere on the outskirts. So the space was fine. And we have the whole trains with victims of the war, with wounded. So sometimes the lines with cars, sometimes the whole trains, and every time there is a strike in the east, the wounded come. And only our hospital during these 3 years had more than 20,000 additional patients in the house to care of. And for that, municipal project of Unbroken started. This is a project aimed on the medical help, but also on rehabilitation of different stages, of prosthetics, of mental health, on all the other things to help those who need it the most, but also temporary housing, permanent housing, many other things which are needed during the wartime. So we started with a lot of master plans on how the hospital could be developed, extended, and so on. And basically, first projects that appeared very quickly, like this bridge for second floor of the main hospital building to the other seventh floor of the building that we renovated for a rehab center. And this is this bridge and how it works. It was built in 3 months. And this is this rehab center with the park in front of it. It's already built as well. We renovated it. It's photographs. They are full of people, but these people don't like to be photographed actually. And we have equipment, support from many partner cities like Freiburg, Würzburg, but also Warsaw, Vilnius, many partners. So in each building there's a lot of support also by German government, by IKEA, by Philips, different manufacturers. So these are the photos of the things we did, but the speech is more about spaces than about architecture. So this kind of ecosystem became an important thing to develop in general the area around the main hospital and many areas in the city, in the northern part of the city. And now we also made a competition on the tram line connecting the city center with this district. And we have here in this ecosystem not only the new constructions, prosthetics, manufacturing, but also housing, sports facility, school, many other things. And just to give you an example, this is the prosthetics infrastructure. We built it out of cross-laminated timber. For fast construction and quality construction, we use a lot of prefabricated elements. So this is the prosthetics factory workshop. This is another 2 floors in cross-laminated timber on the 3 existing floors in construction, and now they are almost ready. This is a project by Shigeru Ban Architects for the hospital, together with the architects of ABMK, who also developed the previous projects. They are responsible to design this one. This is surgery building, designed out of cross-laminated timber. But it's not so much important the building, how they look like, but what effect we have. So in this family, this girl, Yana, she lost 2 legs. Her mother lost 1 leg. And after the rehabilitation, Yana took part in Lviv Marathon, and she also took part in Boston Marathon this year. So, and we have a lot of these stories. We have just hundreds and thousands of different destinies that we kind of influenced. This is municipal housing, the project by Oleg Drozdov. We have the architectural competition together with the local architects AVR. They also together developed this project, and Drozdov is also now local architects because they came from Kharkiv to Lviv, so this is a nice collaboration, and we have also the results. You know, there is a building already constructed with the furniture inside. With the colleagues from Freiburg, we visit this building. This is the tram line, and basically we think about wider development of this area. It becomes an important integrated development concept for this northern part, which will have influence on the comprehensive plan of the community as well. To share these ideas, we have the Urban Forum, 2,000 visitors, 50 lecturers coming to the city, Alejandro Aravena, Christoph Wessling, and many other people who participated at the Urban Forum, who are also here in this hall today. And basically, this is about workshops. This is about bicycle tours. This is about sharing knowledge. And it's all in the time of the war. To finish, just a few pictures. This is the housing for pregnant women. And you know, this project was developed by Sulik architects, Taras Sulik, local architects. And we built these two buildings in 4 months. And they are out of timber as well. We have co-working spaces, children's spaces, very simple, modest, but enough space for community to grow there. And for their leisure, we decided this is, by the way, the housing for pregnant women and families with newborn. And we thought, okay, let's take some construction garbage, and water was coming, so this lake emerged, and a small park. So we tried to do with smallest means possible the landscaping there, and basically this is the effect of that. And the city hall, my colleagues from the city hall, they worked on that, and it became a very nice environment, not only for people living in these houses, but the people from around. So they meet there, they integrate, they communicate, they help each other. It's important part of the puzzle of everything we do. Sports places, and basically we got even the European Bauhaus prize this year, and this prize recently, some kind of landscape prize from Germany. So project is recognized, and behind every project, of course, there are people actually, and the most important thing is, of course, the lack of people, lack of force, lack of thinking. And I'm very thankful to work with colleagues like that. So these 3 people responsible for that project from this small park. And also together with Sasha Sladkova from ecological, let's say, viewpoint on that, they worked to make it happen. So in general, about people. Thank you.
Yeah, that is a wonderful presentation, and we are so thankful for that. I wanted to start the conversation maybe regarding some things I believe we also need to think about as planners within this, because you talked about so many perspectives, so many challenges, so many I would say even directions that are unfolding at the same time that have to be taken hold of in a way. So I will have one short question, but I really ask you to think now, what do you want to ask? We have just a little bit of time to collect some questions from the audience. So my first, well, for me the last, there is water if you need, some thinking about these demographics, which are driving, I think, long-term decision-making, is that there is a surge of people who are coming to Lviv, maybe on a midterm or to longer-term perspective, who have obviously huge problems with their financial situation right now. And those people are housed in different conditions within the city. And how is spatial planning realistically responding to the needs of people who are in no place or at no position to buy an apartment or to get a loan for an apartment in any visible future? And we understand that among those people who came to the city, this is a huge percentage. It might be 60%, it might be 70% of those people. Is there a way that the city, in the spatial planning in the city, takes care of this in some sort?
Okay. When I was asked maybe 5 years ago or even 7 years ago, is there affordable housing in the city from the outside, from people coming from Europe, I said, yeah, there are some programs, but in general, the price for the square meters is $500. So is there any further question? Because it became very accessible for younger families. So it was possible to work, let's say, some period of time, also to have some credit. We don't have cheap money in the country, unfortunately, and didn't had it in 2017, but it was indeed possible for young people and families, and I have many friends who bought apartment, then there was a birth of children, then extending the area and so on. So first time there was no such condition that 2-3 generation live in one apartment. It's impossible to escape it. At the same time, during the wartime especially, and with also all our policies on having better quality. So we want now from developers, to develop it in this way, and also sustainable, and also accessible, and also with, garage enough, let's say. So this is a question about garage space. It's a bit complicated because to make it too lot, it's also bad. But in general, like waiting, not cars, periphery standing on the sidewalks. It became with all this, our appetites for the quality, it became also more expensive, and basically materials are not that accessible right now. So to buy a window became more expensive. To labor force, it's incredible. Where during the wartime how to build the things, the price for the labor force became very high. So in general, it's impossible now to build a house, I would say, in the city for less than $1,000 or euros per square meter. And it's also to build it, but now the question is how to sell it. It will be much more, and there's a lot of, let's say, unforeseen things in it. So those who build the housing right now, they're very brave, kind of, and we understand that it's very nice that this process moves on. At the same time, we really have to think about those who need it the most, and that's why at the start of the war, we said, okay, let's not have any auctions on the land that is dedicated to housing. Because in the city of Lviv, we at least sold the housing through the last years for construction of housing, contrary to many other cities and localities where it was somehow magically privatized. So city got money for that, to develop an infrastructure, to develop public spaces and so on. But even to sell this land, especially there in the north of the city, for instance, where there is a need for infrastructure, where there is a need for this hospital close by, I think it's crazy. And we didn't do that. So the city decided to really dedicate it to municipal housing, for instance. And this first blocks that I told you architects of Drozdova and AVR are constructing, this is basically about the housing for 700 people. It's not small housing. It's a big municipal housing, first time built in Ukraine. It's municipal housing since the Soviet years. We had a lot of trouble with let's say private ownership. This is another story, which is the private ownership in our case and in civilized world, so to say, in many other European countries. But in general, I think that there are also other options to use to have, let's say, more affordable housing. What we study now is this cooperative housing, which is also the leasehold housing, the other forms, but I should say, for any mayor and for any power in the cities, let's say municipal power in the cities, there is, in the European Union, it's the first question how to provide the housing, right? But it's absolutely no political element in our case, in Ukraine. So there is no thinking in general in the country on that, for instance, cooperatives. So to build, but to build with a lower price. What we can learn from the European Union countries, what can be applied here. So this, what we do with municipal housing, with this one, it's like understanding that it's really needed, that there are really people who stay in the containers, who need to improve their conditions. So maybe they will pay a rent for the city, but this rent will be very minimal, so they can really start a few steps in their new life, in the new city in Ukraine. And returning back to this idea of cooperatives, so I don't know, in Switzerland it's Genossenschaften, in other places they call it other way, but this is the idea that a cooperative of more than 5 people gets the land plot for free, it develops it, but it cannot have wins on that. So all the money invested should be invested in construction or to invest it further in the new construction. And in this case, every, let's say, every co-owner, every inhabitant of this building becomes like a part of this cooperative. And the price for that is, let's say, 15% less than the market, sometimes 20%. Sometimes it's even, this cooperative could be on good locations in, let's say, for more expensive housing, but still less expensive for the same quality as the other expensive but with a bigger price, so to say. So it's general influencing the system. It's not about, because, you know, we always, that's why we do this urban forum and so on. There are always talks. Now there will be a Marshall Plan, the billions of euros falling on our heads, what to do, where to build, and so on. I don't really believe in these things. I think we really have to learn from these instruments of putting things together by our own and learning how to do it. 15% less, 20% less, 10% less. It's already great. So let's study the model, how you can achieve it. And basically, it's not only architectural question, but yes, we are thinking about it. Yes, we already constructed this municipal housing. It's still in the middle. Let's see how it will work, and there are a lot of things to do. But this is a bit, I will not say headache, but this is a big amount of things to solve. Also, nobody really asked, and this is just understanding that it's really needed.
Thank you, Anton, very much for the question, for the answer for my question. Are there any questions from the people in here?
Okay.
Please introduce yourself and.
Okay, Alexandra Sladkova, like deputy head of economic development department now, actually, but work a lot with city council, also with Anton. First about demographics, so I'm the sociologist by the second background, so I can approve anything what Anton told. Besides, lots of people think that Lviv will be the megapolis in several years because lots of people will move to Lviv and so on. But I know that there are no resources to do it in any plans. And the prognosis which was done with the international support, also from German scientists, also approved the situation. But I think that there are lots of circumstances which will affect the increasing of business and investments within our community. I think that we will have twice more business, probably in 5 years, probably in 10. And I don't know what, so it is about the industries. Probably it is something, because we are the logistic hub and we will be the bigger logistics hub, because we are a little bit safer, and because about the people who do have money for investments. So also answering your question about what will do the people who cannot afford housing within Lviv, they will go to another city. So I can see that, whether it's good or not, but the people who can afford to buy apartments in Lviv, they will live in Lviv. If they cannot afford or cannot afford it within 5 years, they don't see their future in Lviv, they go to Cherkasy, they go to Chernivtsi, Ivano-Frankivsk, whatever. So also to safer places. So that's why if the people with better income who can make investments go here to Lviv, then also there is one more thing which will affect the business development. We don't know what business will it be, whether it will be for example, data centers, or it will need offices, or it will need, for example, energy. We don't know. But especially, how do you think, what can we do as a city? Because when something is growing or decreasing very fast, it is always stress for organism or for infrastructure. So what could we do today when we know that there would be increase in business? We don't know what type of business, but sure the investments will go there. So how do you think, what specially could we do to get this challenge? Not to have so much stress on our infrastructure and on our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I think that's an important topic we all have to discuss, and it's not that we will decide now in 1 month and then let's do this way, right? It's constantly should be rethought, and let's say this integration development on that topics, especially in these dynamics that we have, will change from day to day, from year to year, I think. Also, city of Lviv was always a little bit of everything. It was a bit of education, not a bit. We are here in a very beautiful educational center, and I think education will still grow. And there is a lack of that, and I believe there is a lot of lack of education, especially in architecture and urban planning. Like now there is a Lviv Polytechnic in the city, the other schools, but there is also the private school of Kharkiv School of Architects, but it's not enough. So in general, the absence of specialists is very feelable and visible. This is the same in every domain. And talking about others, there is a chemistry always been there, okay? But I think we can also develop this kind of pharma, and it's possible. City decided to have cluster economies a few years ago. It made its effect. There was the IT developing very fast. Now it's hard to guarantee during the wartime the projects, and they have issues with that, but solving also because they are cluster and because they are thinking with, let's say, as a community and dealing with the community as the community. And I believe that if we will be still diversified and knowledge-based, and so we will attract a lot of specialists, not only from other cities in Ukraine, but also especially after the war from elsewhere, because there will be, I agree with you, that in terms of business, economies, also industries, industry now doesn't take place directly close to the city center or districts. There is no such need for big labor force, like in Soviet time, like crowds of people going to the work, to the factory and going back. But it changed a lot. But at the same time, there is a huge amount of production area appearing in the city. We have now in construction the biggest industrial zone in the city. Industrial park is already built, and there are new, let's say, industries working there. I don't talk about Miltech because it became a huge element in the city, also with the protection, with development. We are not allowed to even talk about things which we know. There are also things we don't know. So this all will have impact on the city, and I believe that the answer to your question is to be diversified and to be really let's say to put effort on to be attractive for young generation, for students, because that should be in the future also the city of possibilities, where you can find yourself wherever you want to be, artist, you know, IT specialist or something.